It is often said that peril does not always announce itself with a roar. At times, it comes cloaked in quietude, a silence so dense it seems to wrap around you, suffocating in its weight. The clock approached the witching hour. The house was enveloped in an eerie silence, so profound that it seemed almost otherworldly. Silence enveloped the space, devoid of footsteps, absent of creaks, and lacking even the soft hum of the fridge. The steady, measured tick, tick, tick of the hallway clock mingles with the gentle hiss of my breath, a quiet effort to remain unnoticed. There I stood, barefoot, poised before Lucas's door. The hallway lay shrouded in darkness, yet a subtle luminescence seeped from beneath his door, glimmering, similar to a flickering flame or the glow of a display. I arrived without any expectations. I was not in pursuit of trouble. Yet, after enduring solitude for an extended period, the quiet begins to resonate as if it were beckoning you closer. What of curiosity? It ceases to evoke the weight of guilt and transforms into a matter of existence. My hand lingered just above the doorknob. I refrained from making contact with it, merely remained in that moment, caught in stillness. A voice within urged me to continue on my path, to retreat to the comfort of my bed and feign ignorance of the light that beckoned. Yet I found myself unable to stir. What if he required something? What if he was in pain? What if he wandered through the same fog of uncertainty that enveloped me? Silence enveloped the room, yet an unmistakable sensation lingered in the air. A gentle tug, something I could not articulate, a moment that seized my breath, leaving it lodged in my throat. The door remained closed, untouched by my hand. Not at this moment. Yet that moment, me on one side, him on the other, it marked the dawn of something new. I was unaware of what it truly was at that moment. Yet, in reflection, I believe certain doors remain steadfastly closed, silent in their refusal to yield. A heartbeat marks their beginning. I am 38 years old, joined in matrimony. At the very least, that is what the documents indicate. In our tranquil suburb, homes stand in orderly rows, reminiscent of commitments once intended to be honored. To the casual observer, we appear to be just another middle-class family. My husband, Greg, holds a respectable position in his career, embarks on numerous journeys, adorns elegant shirts while responding to emails at the dinner table. He was once the man who kissed me in the kitchen for no reason at all, the man who softly uttered "you're everything" when the weight of the world became unbearable. Yet, individuals evolve. Or perhaps they unveil the essence of their true selves. In the wake of our loss, a fracture emerged within us. Within him, he floated away, akin to a vessel that silently departed from the harbor. I lingered, for a moment, for the caress, the gaze, the inquiry, "Are you all right?" Yet it remained unvoiced. In place of a response, there was only silence, quietude marked by respect and courtesy, as if we shared a space in a dwelling that was beyond our means to abandon. And then Lucas took up residence. He is the son of Greg from his initial marriage. 19, lofty, slender, silent in the manner that sorrow renders individuals mute. His mother departed this world following a prolonged struggle against cancer. Lucas had been residing with his aunt, yet upon his acceptance into a nearby college, Greg extended an invitation to make our home his own. It was suggested that it would be beneficial for him. It was suggested that it would be beneficial for us. I acquiesced. Indeed, I did. How could I possibly refrain? Yet, the instant Lucas stepped across the threshold, an undeniable change occurred. Not in a subtle, understated manner. Simply, the atmosphere shifted. It was as though the house had been suspended in a moment of silence, only to finally release a long-awaited sigh. He was a man of few words, merely a subtle acknowledgement here, a quiet expression of gratitude there. He remained solitary, headphones nestled in place, gaze fixed downward. I made an effort, prepared his beloved meals, scattered small notes. He smiled. He possessed a gentle kindness, yet far away, as if perpetually treading a path just beyond the reach of his own silhouette. And what of Greg? He hardly registered Lucas's presence, or myself for that matter. Three individuals united beneath a single roof. each enveloped in their own quietude, each poised in anticipation, awaiting their moment to be acknowledged. It's an odd sensation, experiencing invisibility within the confines of your own sanctuary. I prepared a meal. I tidied up. I responded to Greg's messages as if they were appointments on a calendar. Dentist at 3, trash day tomorrow, Lucas needs books. Yet the inquiry, "How was your day?" ceased long ago. The embraces ceased prior to that moment. Greg's touch was as delicate as if I were crafted from glass, or perhaps even more haunting, as if I were invisible altogether. And at some point, I ceased to extend my hand towards him. I ceased anticipating the moment his gaze would find me as it once did. However, Lucas cast his gaze, not in every instance, not in a clear manner. Yet, in those fleeting moments when I placed a plate before him, when my hand grasped a cup, when a trivial scene on the TV made me chuckle, I would notice his gaze upon me, only for a fleeting moment, and then he would turn his gaze elsewhere. A smile was absent. There shall be no flirtation. Simply, a profound quietude. Initially, I convinced myself that it was merely a figment of my imagination. I found myself yearning for recognition. I realized that I was imposing my own expectations onto this boy, this young man who had already endured so much loss. Yet, the reality was that his silence carried a weight distinct from Greg's. Greg's silence echoed with emptiness. Lucas's presence was undeniable. He would hover in the kitchen as I prepared the meal, extend a kind gesture to dry the dishes once dinner has concluded. Not with grand displays, merely subtle ones, delicate, thoughtful details. And gradually, I came to understand something that constricted my chest in ways I hadn't experienced in years. Lucas caught sight of me, not in the role of his stepmother, not as the woman his father wed, simply myself. It's unclear when the habit of reflection took root within me, when my eyes began to linger on his gaze for just a moment longer than they ought to. Yet they did. In those fleeting seconds, an unvoiced connection began to unfurl. A gentle touch, perilous situation. There was an unspoken truth that lingered in the shadows, one I hesitated to acknowledge yet found impossible to overlook. The hour had grown late. It was one of those nights when the stillness in the house seemed almost suffocating, as if it were concealing a secret. As I made my way to the kitchen, my bare feet whispering against the floor, I found myself glancing at Lucas's door. The corridor lay shrouded in darkness, save for a delicate glimmer seeping from beneath the door. It pulsed gently, reminiscent of a heartbeat. I halted, not out of intention, merely intuition, and then it reached my ears. Not voices. It is not music. Cadence, gentle and cyclical, skin and air. A moment of stillness. A transformation. At that moment, the decisive click of a laptop being shut tight. Whispers of movement. Silence envelopes the air. I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. What I felt was not shame. It was not revulsion. It was truly remarkable. There's a lingering sense of embarrassment I carry. I felt truly seen. At that instant, not in the actions he was undertaking. Yet, in the aftermath that unfolded, I rapped my knuckles against the door. Reflection. It wasn't difficult. Merely a gentle reminder that he was not solitary in the shadows that enveloped him. Is that so? His voice filtered through the door, sharp and unwavering, but I could still discern it. The sharpness of that edge. The fracture. I gulped. I wanted to see if there's anything you might need before you settle in for the night. A moment of stillness. No, I am well, unwavering and constant, yet not at ease. Not exactly. I lingered for a heartbeat, my hand hovering near the door, before I finally turned and made my exit. As dawn broke, we found ourselves in the kitchen simultaneously. He was delicately cascading the cereal into the bowl. I extended my hand toward a mug. In that fleeting moment, our eyes met, and time seemed to stand still. I have just taken a glance. Silence prevails, a face devoid of a smile. Yet, there was an unfamiliar glimmer in his eyes that caught me off guard. No shame. Do not fear. Acknowledgement. And that was the defining moment. Not the noise. Not the entrance. Yet that gaze. For within it, I discovered the sensation I had not experienced in many years. I was present. In the aftermath of that night, an imperceptible change began to unfold. subtle and gradual, akin to a tide shifting just out of sight. Lucas did not shy away from my presence. Not quite. Yet the atmosphere surrounding us grew denser. Our silences had transformed. They brimmed with unvoiced thoughts, lingering inquiries, and the heaviness of an unnamed presence that enveloped us both. He continued to lend a hand with the household chores. He merely nodded as I walked by. Yet what of the glances? They endured for a greater duration. And as I glanced back, my gaze remained steadfast. A gentle warmth began to blossom between us. Quiet, unhurried. It's a subtle consciousness, akin to being near a flame, not in contact, yet sensing the warmth. On a particular evening, Greg found himself absent, embarking on yet another business trip. As I meticulously folded the laundry on the couch, Lucas entered the room, cradling an empty mug in his hands. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes, merely stood there, observing as I meticulously folded a towel. And I gazed upward. His eyes bore the weight of fatigue, not due to a deficit of rest, but rather from bearing an excessive load for an extended period. He perched on the edge of the armchair, silence enveloping him at first. Then, averted gaze, he murmured, "I yearn for companionship, for the warmth of another's presence." That was the moment. 7 words, just a whisper above the soft drone of the refrigerator. Yet they struck with the force of thunder within my chest. I stood motionless, the towel clutched tightly in my hands. My breath hitched. My heart understood that those words transcended him alone, pertained to me as well, for I too wished to escape the solitude. In an instant, every night I had spent in pretense, every morning I had choked down silence alongside my coffee, flooded back to me. I beheld my own reflection in him, not in the manner of a boy, not in the capacity of my stepson, yet akin to a reflection, a pulse of life, a lamentation. I chose not to respond, not for lack of words, yet the silence that lingers between us has already spoken volumes. Following that night, my movements began to change, not in a dramatic fashion, not by design, yet I observed details, the manner in which I extended my hand for a glass, the way I strolled by his door, the choices I made regarding my attire after the evening shower. I ceased to clutch the heavy robe that once enveloped me. Instead, I discovered my hand gravitating towards something gentler, more delicate, a sensation that allowed the breeze to caress my skin. I reassured myself that it was merely a consequence of the sweltering summer heat. It was entirely unrelated to him. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the truth. I had no intention of luring Lucas in. I had no plans in mind. Yet, I found it hard to resist the temptation to linger a moment longer as I walked past the kitchen where he was standing. I lingered, not hurrying to look away when our gazes intertwined. A smile curled at the corner of my mouth, unhidden, as he finally noticed me. For he did indeed take notice of me, not through language, not with daring stares. Yet, it was in the subtle way his demeanor changed as I entered the room. He stood a touch straighter, a shade quieter, as if my presence held some significance. That sensation, it filled me with dread, not due to any wrongdoing. Yet, there was an undeniable pleasure in being noticed once more. On certain days, I would find myself gazing into the mirror, adjusting my hair, applying lip balm, all in an effort to appear vibrant. And I would ponder, for whom are you undertaking this journey? I remained silent, yet I was aware of the truth. I longed for the days when I was the center of someone's attention. I longed for the days when I could be that gentle refuge for someone. I longed for the feeling of being selected. The solitude had grown silent. It murmured softly. It enveloped me like a soft mist, tender and convincing. In Lucas's silence, I discovered a sense of comfort that teetered on the edge of danger. Without a hint of forewarning, the storm arrived. A deep growl resonated, followed by an enveloping void. The lights danced briefly, then succumbed to darkness. Silence reigns, devoid of the refrigerator's familiar hum. The silence of Greg's neglected laptop lingered on the dining table. Only the rain whispers against the windows, accompanied by the quiet sigh of a house that has fallen into silence. A candle flickered to life, First one, then two. The gentle illumination enveloped the living room, evoking a sense of nostalgia, delicate and distant, like a cherished recollection. Lucas had arrived, settled on the rug with his back resting against the couch. As I stepped inside, his gaze met mine, and for a fleeting moment, we lingered in silence, illuminated by the soft glow of the candles. Silence prevails, without the flicker of the screen, free from distractions. Just silence. I took my seat opposite him, neither too near nor too distant. The distance that once separated us no longer felt void. He was the one to break the silence. As a child, I harbored a deep aversion to the dark. A soft smile graced my lips. I continue to. He gazed into the flickering flame. It's not the darkness, truly. It possesses the power to hush the world around it. Excessively silent, as if the universe has faded away, leaving only the two of us. I swallowed hard. At times, that sort of silence resonates more profoundly than anything else. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. Indeed, it does. Particularly in moments of solitude. I chose not to respond. I was unable to. The words had ceased to revolve solely around him. They were also reflections of my own essence. He extended his hand with deliberate slowness, his fingertips grazing against mine before coming to a gentle rest. Cozy, yet take your time. And then he drew closer, gradually, with careful deliberation, not in the manner of a claim, but rather in the form of a question. Query in flux. I remained still, not absent, not ahead, and then our lips met, softly, like the soft murmur of unspoken words lingering between us. A truth we both hesitated to voice. It lacked fervor. It was not mere desire. It was acknowledgement of suffering, out of necessity, of being observed. As we departed, the atmosphere of the room shifted, leaving an unmistakable void. We were in the same boat. As dawn broke, an unusual stillness enveloped the house, a silence that felt heavier than the ordinary, not tranquil, void, as if a breath has been suspended for far too long. Lucas remained upstairs, skipping breakfast altogether. The familiar shuffle of his feet on the stairs was absent, as was the comforting sound of the kettle whirring for his tea. Only silence prevails. As the clock struck noon, I rapped gently on his door. Silence prevails. Silence reigned supreme. As twilight descended, he brushed past me in the corridor. There was an absence of eye contact. Not a nod. Simply completed. It was not anger. It was not a matter of shame. It was a chasm of distance. Calculated. Weighty, as if he had constructed a barrier in the dark of night, entombing himself within its confines. I felt compelled to make contact, to inquire about his well-being. Yet my lips faltered, unable to shape the words I longed to speak. In those fleeting instances when he allowed his gaze to intertwine with mine, I glimpsed something profound in his eyes. He bore no hatred towards me. He loathed his very existence. Lucas was inflicting suffering upon himself, not intended for kissing me, yet for the significance that kiss held for him, for the gentleness he permitted, in pursuit of the warmth he longed for dishonoring the legacy of the woman who brought him into this world. What about me? I served as the reflection that brought it to his attention. From that moment forward, a fracture appeared within the walls of our home, not with a loud voice, like plaster yielding to the weight of paint. Soft, understated, and irrevocable. We navigated our paths as if we were mere strangers once more. Yet now the silence was filled with meaning. It brimmed with recollections, brimming with sorrow, brimming with an ineffable essence, elusive and beyond our grasp to mend. Silence enveloped the memories of that night. No one inquired about its significance. Yet with each step Lucas distanced himself from me. With every glance he withheld, I sensed it deeply, free from guilt, not a denial, merely the conclusion of a journey that never truly commenced. At times, I find myself pondering whether this tale truly began with Lucas. Yet, as I linger in contemplation, a deeper understanding begins to unfold. It began long before his arrival, prior to Greg, prior to the union of marriage, prior to the stillness. It began with a young girl perched on the stairs, her gaze fixed on the door, anticipating her father's return, who discovered that love came with stipulations, and that silence offered a refuge, who mastered the art of pretense, of being good enough, quiet enough, small enough to earn love. I pursued validation as if it were essential for my very breath. From educators, from young lads, from those who gazed deeply enough to affirm my existence. And then Greg appeared, radiating confidence and charm, and I believed I had finally discovered something enduring, a sense of security. Yet, steadiness does not equate to presence. Being selected once does not guarantee eternal recognition. As Lucas's gaze met mine, not fueled by desire, but rather by a profound sense of recognition, it shattered something within me. He was not a source of temptation. He was a mirror of sorts, a reflection of my former self, isolated, in pursuit, gentle at the periphery, a result of bearing burdens in solitude. Perhaps that is what shattered us. Not desire, not treachery, yet the pain of two souls yearning to hold significance in another's life. As I reflect on that evening, the soft glow of candlelight, the stillness that enveloped us, and the quiver in his voice as he confessed his fear of solitude, I do not dwell on the concept of sin. Contemplation of necessity occupies my thoughts, for there are moments when errors arise not from longing. They arise from an intense yearning to find a place within another's reality, to be acknowledged, to attain recognition, to avoid fading into the shadows of your own existence. That is the reality I must confront, yet it bears a weight greater than shame itself. He left without a farewell. The hallway is devoid of any packed bags. Not a single farewell look. Only a vacant room and a neatly folded note resting on the edge of the kitchen table. The dawn had just begun to break. The sun had yet to fully ascend in the sky. It revealed itself to me as I descended to brew my morning coffee, still in a haze of slumber, my hair clinging damply from the shower's embrace. Initially, I perceived it as merely a grocery list. Yet, the script revealed a different story. I carefully unfolded it. 7 words, each one a universe unto itself. You assured me that I was not alone. Yet here I stand, transformed, unnamed. There is no signature, simply that. My hands quivered as I carefully folded it back. Gradually, with great care, I tucked it away in the drawer by the sink, the one that holds the dish towels, the bottle opener, and those odds and ends that rarely see the light of day unless someone is rummaging for something else. I held back my tears, not for lack of feeling it. Yet, the sorrow lingered, muted and empty, leaving no room for tears to fall. It lingered in my chest like a dense fog, weighty, leisurely, immovable. Greg remained blissfully unaware of his absence. Or if he had, he chose not to inquire. He had returned to our bed by that time, as if nothing had shifted. Yet I had. Something within me remained at that kitchen table, clutching that note, reading those 7 words repeatedly, until they etched themselves into my very bones. Lucas relocated to a neighboring city, nearer to his place of learning. That is the extent of my knowledge. Our words have remained unspoken since that moment. In the stillness of the night, I find myself drawn to the drawer, its contents a mystery waiting to be uncovered. Refrain from reading it, merely to confirm its continued presence. And I find myself pondering, have I shattered something revered? Or was it that I yearned, if only for a fleeting moment, to be seen through another's gaze? If the story touched something in you, if you've ever felt unseen in your own home, if you've ever made a choice not out of desire, but out of aching loneliness, you're not alone. Tell me, have you ever stood at the edge of right and wrong, not knowing which side you were on until it was too late? Leave a comment. I read every word. Sometimes healing begins when we say the things we're afraid to speak, like share and subscribe to Vows and Betrayals, 'cause some stories aren't easy to tell, but they still deserve to be heard.